On today's episode of Out of the Groove, we look at the chase bubble heading into the final race of the regular season. That was a pretty simple intro. That's just what we're going to do today. It doesn't really get any more straightforward than that. Alright, so after Darlington, we have 12 drivers locked into the chase. Brad Keselowski, Carl Edwards, Kyle Busch, Matt Kenseth, Jimmy Johnson, Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano, Martin Truex Jr., Tony Stewart, Kyle Larson, and Kurt Busch. They are all locked in with one or multiple wins, and they're good on points. That leaves 4 spots up for grabs. Currently, those 4 spots are held by Chris Buescher, Chase Elliott, Austin Dillon, and Jamie McMurray. Chris Buescher is currently in the chase because of his 1 win at Pocono, but he's only 11 points ahead of 31st, so he's going to have to stay ahead to make it into the chase at the end of Richmond. Oh, it's so complicated. Now, the big news coming out of Darlington included Ryan Newman. Newman failed post-race inspection, and on Wednesday, it was announced that he would face a 15-point deduction and a $25,000 fine. Now, why is this big news? Because before that penalty, Ryan Newman was only 7 points behind 16th place Jamie McMurray. And 7 points, while not preferable, is not an insurmountable amount to make up in one race. Unfortunately, 22 points is. Newman at this point is basically going to have to hope that McMurray wrecks or that he can win this race if he wants to make the chase. Or he could just take out Chris Buescher. Think about it. If Chris Buescher wrecks and falls out of the top 30 in points, Newman's going to bump in and take his spot. That is, unless Casey Kane or AJ Allmendinger or one of these other guys wins. But come on, what are the odds of that happening? I'm just kidding. Sorry. Kyle Larson also got hit with the exact same penalty after Darlington, but since he already has a win and is good on points, the 15 points really aren't going to mean anything to him. Now, we know Newman's a little crazy. In 2014, he needed 1 position to make it into the Final Four, and he had no troubles running over Kyle Larson, driving him into the wall to take that position and make it to the championship race. And he was obviously doing what he has to do. I don't think very many people complained, but you never know what he could do this time. Jamie McMurray, you better watch out. Chris Buescher, you better watch out. You better not cry. Ryan Newman might keep a close eye on you. Nah, I don't really think he's going to do anything. He's a veteran. He's not crazy. Is he? But you can see how much the chase means to a lot of these teams. Who knows how much it means to Newman? Anyway, now to talk about some of the other drivers on the bubble. Chase Elliott is currently 14th in points, but he is all but locked in at this point. He just needs to not finish last. Chase Elliott basically just needs to go out there, have a solid day, don't get into trouble, just build some momentum heading into the chase. He's basically locked in. Good for him! Austin Dillon, honestly, he's flown under the radar this season. Every time I feel like we talk about him, I feel like he's doing something bad. But now that I look at the points, he's 15th in points. He's got a little bit of a cushion as well. Similarly to Elliott, he's not as locked in. I wouldn't say he's quite as, comfortable, but all he has to do is put together a solid race, don't wreck, don't blow an engine, nothing like that. Just come out of it with a good finish, and he'll be locked in. Now, Jamie McMurray's got a little bit more pressure. Now, he still has a pretty good gap back to Newman because, Newman had the penalty. But McMurray has to be careful because if a guy like Ryan Blaney or AJ Allmendinger or Casey Kane or anybody else or even Danica gets a win, he's going to be bumped out. So McMurray's got to be on his toes. Now, Newman, like I said, is 22 points out, so he's basically going to have to win or hope that McMurray struggles big time or Chris Buescher struggles big time. He's going to have to hope for something like that to happen if he wants to get in. Casey Kane mathematically can't get in unless he wins, and he's been running better, I feel like, the last couple months or so, but still don't know that he's really capable of that right now. Same goes for Ryan Blaney, AJ Allmendinger, and Trevor Bayne, the next 3 in points. All are not able to get in on points. They're all going to have to win, and the closest one to doing that this year out of those 3, I'd say, is Blaney. Other people barely worth mentioning, Ricky Stenhouse, Paul Menard, they're not. Again, they're going to have to win to get in, and it's probably not going to happen. If you ask me, I honestly don't think the chase grid's going to change at all. I think everyone you see currently in the top 16 is going to be the ones you see after Richmond. I don't see Newman getting in. I don't see one of these other guys winning. I mean, they might run well. They might run better than average, but as it is now, I think Chris Buescher will make it in. I think McMurray will make it in. I think Elliott, Austin Dillon, they're all going to make it. I think it's basically going to be what it is now. So now I just want to spend a moment and give my honest opinion on this chase format. This is the 3rd year now that we've run the chase grid format, and for the most part, I've really liked it. I understand when people say things, and I totally agree with them when they say that it kind of takes away from the consistency. It's not real points racing or stuff like that. Like guys who win the championship, like Kyle Busch last year, missed a significant portion of the season, but came back, drove really well, won the championship. People don't like that. They like people to be consistent from start to finish. And I agree with you there. I like that too. But you can't deny the level of excitement and the level of exposure that the chase grid has given this sport. And it's more like a real playoff picture compared to other sports. And now y'all can argue NASCAR is not like other sports, but what's the harm in having a playoff system similar to it? I mean, in football or baseball, the team that has the best record in the regular season might lose in the first round. It happens all the time. So in NASCAR, if a guy like Brad Keselowski or Kevin Harvick dominates the season, who's to say they don't wreck at Chicagoland and go out in the first round here? I mean, is it fair? But is it exciting? That's what NASCAR is going for. And I personally applaud them for it. The only thing I would change is the way people get into the chase. Let me explain. Since the chase grid started, I've never really been a big fan of the whole win and you're pretty much in. For me personally, it's taken away from the excitement of each individual race. Now, as most of you know, I'm a Matt Kenseth fan, and typically Matt Kenseth runs pretty well most seasons and gets a couple of wins. So for example, this season when he won earlier in the year at Dover, at that point he was locked in. And basically every race since then, if he hasn't won, I haven't really cared if he wrecks or if he finishes third. I just don't really care. And to me that takes the excitement out of each individual race, at least for fans of popular drivers. Like think of Denny Hamlin fans. Denny Hamlin won the Daytona 500, the first race of the season, by about this much, and basically since then he's been set. He's had nothing to race for. I mean, his fans really have no reason to tune into the race unless they think Hamlin's gonna win. A second place finish means nothing points wise. I really felt the impacts of this earlier this season at Indianapolis when Matt Kenseth, my favorite driver, finished second, and I thought about it a couple days later and I realized I was disappointed that he finished second, because second doesn't mean anything anymore. It used to be that even when your favorite driver won, while as awesome as that was, you still felt like you needed to watch all the other races to make sure they continue to run off good finishes of top 5s and top 10s to ultimately lead themselves into a playoff berth. I like the fact that the chase grid does give underdog teams a slightly better chance of getting in, but when you look at it, 90% of its hardcore fans root for those 12 or 13 drivers I listed earlier that already have wins. So in that case, 90% of your fans don't care that much about races anymore once their favorite driver has a win. Like I'm in college right now and I don't have cable set up in my dorm yet, so the race at Michigan a couple weeks ago, I barely watched any of that race, and honestly I didn't care, because to me Michigan isn't that exciting of a racetrack. It's not like Bristol or a road course or Daytona or something, and since I knew my boy Matt already had 2 wins, I'm like, what's the point? I followed along on RaceView and stuff and I saw Larson get a win. That was cool, I guess. But to be honest, I don't even remember where Matt Kenseth finished in that race because I just didn't care. Since he didn't win, it didn't matter to me. I guess I'm maybe overstating it slightly, but I think you get my point. Now my biggest problem with the chase grid format, I haven't even mentioned yet because I know a lot of y'all are going to hate me for this, but as I've mentioned a couple of times kind of subtly, both Chris Buescher and Tony Stewart do not deserve to be in the chase whatsoever. Chris Buescher is 30th in points. That team isn't even a top 20 team week to week. Their one win at Pocono they got because their crew chief took a wild look in the sky and said, let's not pit here and see what happens, and he got a victory that way. As fun as it was at the time, when the chase starts here in a couple weeks and we see Ryan Newman or Ryan Blaney or AJ Allmendinger or some of these guys who actually run pretty well, when we see them not in the chase because Chris Buescher got that win, you gotta see that there's a problem there. Because Chris Buescher, let's face the facts, has 0 chance of winning the championship. It's a 1 to a million odds in Las Vegas, I guarantee you. There's no chance he's gonna win the chase. So while it's great for that one day where everyone's like, wow, congratulations, Chris Buescher, when you look in the grand scheme of the sport and how the season's gonna play out, it's a waste. It's a wasted spot in the chase. Now y'all can hate me all you want, but it's the truth. And a similar thing goes for Tony Stewart. Tony Stewart is 27th in points. They've run slightly better, I guess, recently, but even in the Darlington, they blew an engine. That team is not a chase team. He got his win at Sonoma because Tony Stewart is a very talented race car driver, and they happen to have a decent car that week. Tony Stewart missed 8 races this season. He only has 7 top 10 finishes, and if you contrast that to other guys that aren't locked in yet, Chase Elliott has 13 top 10s in 25 starts, and Austin Dillon has 10 top 10s, but only has 1 DNF to Tony Stewart's 3. And this isn't the first time we've seen this with the chase. In 2014, Eric Almirola made the chase. Despite only winning 1 race, it was also a rain-shortened race, and it was at Daytona. He got into the chase and was eliminated in the first round. Now, I, off the top of my head, do not remember who else was on the bubble that year, but I'm sure there was somebody else that had a better chance than Eric Almirola. But they didn't get in. And now, obviously, this year's not a perfect example because, like I said, Chase Elliott, Austin Dillon, some of those other guys will probably still get in. But just think, one of these days, there will be a guy out there like Chase Elliott who's run as well as he did, but will not make the chase because someone like Tony Stewart, who's missed a lot of races, has more DNFs, honestly has not run very well at all, has 1 win, they're going to get in instead. And I guess it's up to the fans. If we like that, then okay, don't change it. But in my case, I still like to reward consistency more than just guys getting wins here and there by circumstance. But if there's one thing I would change about the chase, I would basically make the top 16 just be the top 16 in points, purely. You can still do the whole chase grid thing with the different rounds and stuff, and then the win, and you move on, that whole thing. I like all that for the most part. But I think they should decide the top 16 in points based purely on points. You can make wins worth more bonus points than they currently are, so they are still more valuable, but I think you should ultimately just look at points. I think that's the most important thing. That's how every other sport does it. In other sports, they take whoever has the most wins and they put them in the playoffs and let it sort out from there. So in NASCAR, they should say who has the most points and put them in the playoffs and then let them sort out. I think so far NASCAR has gotten fairly lucky that the whole win and you're in thing hasn't really blown up in their face yet. Although some people would say Kyle Busch shouldn't have won last year. But I'm just waiting for the season, and it could end up being this season, where a guy gets in ahead of somebody way more deserving due to this system, and I just don't think that's right. Anyway, that was my rant, and that is the end of this episode. Thank you all very much for watching. Next episode will be up next Monday. I will be reviewing the Richmond race, and I'll be previewing what's going on ahead in the chase. I'll be talking about whatever falls out from that. So I hope you all look forward to that. Please follow me on Twitter if you haven't already, @Dex Racing. Link is in the description. I have nothing else to say. Thank you guys for watching once again, and I will see you Monday. I feel like I already know people are going to leave comments hating on my Houston Astros t-shirt. Every time I wear an Astros shirt, people hate on me, and I just wonder, the Astros have been so bad for so long. What could the Astros have ever done to one of your teams? At least until the last year or so. Like the last 2 years they've been good. You know, if you're a Yankees fan, sorry that we beat you in the wild card game last year. My bad. But I don't understand. Every time I wear an Astros shirt, I always get at least 2 or 3 comments that say, "Ew, Astros." And I'm like, what did the Astros ever do to you? You know? They haven't been good.